Hello there, ladies, gentlemen, and unicorns, and congratulations, Lady Mistleaf, again on winning the pop quiz. And hello there, cute math. Thank you so much for joining. Yes, today's stream is going to be a bit different than usual because I thought it's time for another book club. I mean, I called it book club, but it's not actually a book club, because with a book club I think we all read the same book and then we discuss, which is clearly not the case here. I just wanted to share some of the books that I've read, because my pile of books that I've read with anything games industry, game history related is growing to quite a degree, and I thought sometimes I just throw in a Pixel Prophecy book club stream and share with you my passions in regards to books. And right now it's super sweltering hot in here, or it was, until we had the angriest cloud passing with a thunderstorm and showers of rain. And I have the windows open now, but with all the lights, expect some showers of rain from my forehead, apparently. So, as with books, as always, there's disclaimer. There is this disclaimer that it's just what I'm interested in, and I hope I can maybe interest you in also some of the weird-ass topics that I've been strangely attracted to, or found myself attracted to. And I thought since today, or usually it was entirely about game dev, I thought I also might recommend someone that may be of interest to anyone doing game dev, but that it's not just the usual kind of fact-based book where it's a novel. It's a novel. So let's have a look. Cursey says, book like those collectibles in Skyrim. Exactly, but you can't stick them in a barrel. No matter how many you stick in there, some will pop out. But the good thing about actual books is that it's more than just 2 or 3 pages to read, and you know what, it comes even in different fonts, so not just the swirly font from Skyrim books. I've had a fair bit of rain, says Lady Mistleaf, but now that we've out of a heat wave, a week of no rain, oh boy, yeah, the weather is crazy. This year you really notice it, at least I do, with so many thunderstorms and heat waves passing. So it's either you get scorched to death from the heat, or you get just hit by this size of hail. So yeah, whatever you do, clearly nature is, as I've said multiple times now, nature is trying to kill us off, and I think it's getting better every year. But so far I'm still sheltered, which means let's talk about something uplifting, that is books. And here we are on the first book. But first, let me switch over to the chat. No, it's just the automated unicorn greeted Cursey. So hello there, Cursey, as well. So I did my last. Sorry, I should stop bumping the desk, and then the camera just moves. I will try. I will try to keep my hands off the table. So I did my last book stream. I think it was early this year. Was it in January or February? Anyway, I told that I was starting to read The Friendly Orange Glow by Brian Deere. Or Dare, probably Deere. Anyway, and I didn't know much about this book, and I had just started it, and a month ago or so I finished it. And I'm not the fastest reader, because I really like to take my time and read every sentence and not just skim across it. And this book is like 550 pages or so on, and you would probably think, what the hell is the orange friendly glow anyway? So I prepared some things, mostly notes, so that I don't get distracted. So imagine what if there already was the web before the web as we know it today, but it was in the 60s and 70s and nobody noticed that it was there. This is essentially what's going on with this book. So it is about the Plato computer system that was at the University of Illinois, I think. Developed, and it was initially, or well, throughout its existence, a computer system for education. Essentially, it was what nowadays we would call e-learning, where the plan was to have the computer teach you things and you don't need a teacher. So this is where this entire idea of Plato, that's I don't know what the acronym stands for, but essentially it's a computer system for students that they don't need to get managed by a teacher or anything, but the computer essentially looks at what they are doing and the courseware, as it is called, and essentially gives them feedback, maybe has you try certain things again, and essentially you can learn at your own pace. But the book really starts at the very beginning, and the beginning, of course, is the book is in 3 parts, and the first part is called Automatic Teacher, and it chronicles this idea where it comes from, that I think it harkens back to Skinner from the Skinner box, you might know. Anyway, it goes back to this idea, like I said, what if we don't have teachers to teach you some things, but students can learn on their own? And essentially it started from this kernel of an idea into this Plato system at the University of Illinois, which went live, I think, in the first iteration in the 1960s. So essentially it was just, can a computer teach? Or how can you make a computer teach people? So this was the outset. And because it was in a relatively sheltered environment of the university, and there were funds for it, which is also very helpful, the thing kind of grew. And the book also chronicles the building where this entire thing was, and of course also the politics, who ran it, who oversaw the program over the years. And there is one name that is central to everything, and that is the name of Donald Bitzer, wonderful name. And he essentially was the heart and soul of this entire operation, because at first it started with Plato 1, and the most important thing was just with this entire Plato architecture. Remember, this was before what was called microcomputers, so it was just a room full with gear that was connected to one terminal. And the important part that Plato had from, I think, the very first version was what's it called? Quick round trip. So when you push something on your terminal, a key, a letter, you would get instant feedback, so that almost to no delay on a discernible delay on your end, you would see the letter appear on the screen, that it went through the entire chain of telephone lines, if it was connected via telephone, to this big computer, and it would spit out to your terminal essentially what you were typing. So it always felt that you didn't have to wait for things to happen. You can always see exactly what the thing is doing. So yeah, this sounds super technical and academic and not very interesting. So where does the fun part come in? And this is the part 2 of this book. It's aptly titled The Fun They Had. And it is all about how continuing evolutions of this Plato system, what was possible with those things. And also, of course, it's like an ecosystem. It's there were people who programmed the kernel or the language with which you could make courseware. Again, remember, this was for educationists. So you had someone trying to teach something, and they had to implement it in some way to make this courseware out of it. And there was this language that was Tutor, that was also developed on this Plato system. So essentially it was not, I mean, it was probably akin to Inform. So it's mostly text-based, but you could also do graphics if you wanted. And there were essentially two different kinds of users. There were, of course, the students and the course authors. But everyone, of course, you wanted to have an author sign on, because an author sign on meant essentially you also had some sort of web space. It wasn't called web space, but you had some space on the server in which you could make your own course files. And because this Tutor language was so versatile, you could do a lot with it. And this is where we got the first client-server MMO games, sometimes even with real-time graphics that you could play as a team even if you were distributed over different universities. But because everything went through this central computer, this central Plato system, you could play together. And this was in the 1970s. Sometimes some things even started in the 60s. And there were so many inventions that are already made and somehow forgotten. And then they all came again in the 80s and 90s with the web, such as email, forums and bulletin boards, instant messaging. They had something that was called Term Talk. That was terminal talk, so you could, no matter in what program or what course where you were, you had a line on the bottom where people could message you, no matter what you were doing. So, I mean, for the 70s, this was pretty groundbreaking. And, of course, what was also something that was largely unheard of was the display that they had. Because since this was an entire system, not only the software had to be developed, but also the hardware. And this I have to show you. I have to show you what the terminal looks like. And this is also where the name, the friendly orange glow, comes from. If I can only find an image. There we go. Let me see if this works. Yes. So this is... There we go. So this is what one of those terminals looks like. And you can see here, this is graphics, but it's only orange. And this is because this was a plasma panel that was specifically developed during this Plato tenure. Is that the right word? Anyway, it had like 512 by 512 by 512 pixels, and the cool thing about this was that in earlier versions it also had a slide projector built in, and you the program essentially could, or the author could have different slides projected on the back, which worked with pressurized air or something. It was super weird, but of course this was because you couldn't do graphics and you didn't have any storage inside this terminal. So everything that you would have on screen essentially was stored somewhere on this huge big Plato machine. But this thing had also something that was also unheard of, that was a touch screen. You could actually really touch on it. And we had also people, this is Silas Warner, but this is the one that I want to show you. So yeah, this is, I mean, it looks super bulky, but this is connected via telephone line to this computer. So people who had never met each other were communicating via Term Talk, knew each other from games and high score lists, and of course they ate up a lot of processing power as soon as the official hours were over and the time, the CPU time was essentially given away to anyone who would use it. So yeah, and there were of course, like I said, many things that got invented there and was unbeknownst to a large subset of people, such as myself. So this is why I'm super passionate about this, because it's just mind blowing when you read this book how many inventions there were. And Brian Deere does a great job of really chronicling pretty much everything. I think he worked on this entire book since the 80s or something, doing hundreds of interviews, and also he was himself there and using Plato. So it's really chronicling this entire thing from the first inception, how it got started, until the final Plato was shut off, I think in 2014 or something. There are still emulators around, but this is how long this educational system, as it was in the beginning and essentially stayed throughout, was. Right, so I have here Silas Warner. This was also a person who got his introduction to computers through Plato, and he also did some. I think there is this one anecdote where he was constantly pumping up the pressurized air inside of those Plato terminals, because I think he was the administrator of one teaching class, and he always had to pump in some air because people would forget to turn off the valve or something. Super weird. But Silas Warner, you probably know him or have heard of one of his games. The game is Castle Wolfenstein, or as we say in German, Castle Wolfenstein. And John Romero used this game for, or well, not just John Romero, but id Software for Wolfenstein 3D. So this was the original game that Silas Warner made. And he started out doing games and programming on Plato. He passed on, I think, in 24, or was it also 14? I don't know. But sadly, he's gone, and people always have very fond stories of him, that he was this hulking giant and really nerdy, but of course really knew what he was doing. Commander Stitch says, messing with some Java, what you guys up to? Well, we're in deep computer space history. So again, this is how this plasma panel looks like. So again, it looks rudimentary, but at the time when there was, for home computers, where you had the what was it called? I'm blanking now. The blue computer that you just had toggle switches on the outside, and all you could do was program LEDs essentially, and there you had like 512 by 512 pixels and a lot of processing power in the background. Yes, another game that was developed on Plato was, you probably know this is Mahjong Solitaire. Here now it's blue, but this entire thing that Mahjong became an essential solitaire game on the computer that many of us, I think I'm not the only one, enjoyed greatly. Also got started on Plato, and this is also a very interesting story of the person who made this, because from an accident he was paralyzed from the neck down, so he did all the graphics, everything by I think just a mouth stick, and also the programming and so on. So amazing work. And also, it still has this very look that we still recognize, but I think this was in the early 80s when this thing was done, and it's very elegant. It's very elegant. And here, of course, we're here for games, and this game is called D&D, and there was also I think Edit 5 or Ed 5 or something, not quite sure on the names, but of course people who were exposed to Dungeons and Dragons and thought, maybe I can recreate this on Plato, and of course you could. And this is also the birthplace, I think, of the first rogue likes. Now I'm saying roguelike, but it was rogue before rogue, so essential things like random generation of dungeons and so on, and this adventurer going through the dungeon and so on. But this was in the 70s, early 70s. And of course, there were grand strategy games like Star Trek or Rank Trek in apparently in this case, and even fighting, not fighting games, but essentially like games like X-Wing, but also or probably more like EVE Online, where you could also do some management of your galaxy, but also could do dogfights. And there are super interesting stories about how many things were actually had their inception with something that nobody, including myself until I've read this book, has ever heard of. So this was my I think so far most interesting book where I learned so much new that I hadn't heard before, because you know me, I have a very strong interest in gaming history and gaming industry and everything, and there's a great blog by the Digital Antiquarian, which I think I've read all the posts at least once. But about the Plato, there are still things that were entirely new to myself. And in terms of Plato, let me open a Firefox and also show you, because there is, like I said, the Digital Antiquarian, and he wrote this blog post quite a while back, the first CRPGs, the first computer role-playing games. And there, if we search for Plato, it pops up quite a number of times. And so if you want to give this a read, it's not very long, but again, this is a super interesting blog that if you have any interest in history of how games came to be, or their origins and so on, let me post the link. This is something that I really urge you to check out. So my verdict on the Friendly Orange Glow: if you're only there for computing stuff and not interested in this entire education thing, so I would say just read part 2. Like I said, there are 3 parts. The first part is, can a computer teach, and how can a computer teach, and how this entire Plato project came to be. The part 2 is all the fun stories. I mean, we probably all have these weird or very nerdy stories from our college days, and it's no different with the Plato system, because essentially it was, the first versions were programmed by just a bunch of high schoolers and early freshmen that just had fun tinkering around on the computer. And of course, Don Blitzer, who was running the program, didn't have a lot of money for programming, so it pretty much let everyone just toy around with it and see what comes of it. And also there are, like I said, super nerdy stories in there of a person who was only known by his red sweater, and of course they pulled a prank and then were hiding his red sweater. And you know, all those kind of things that happen after dark when you've locked yourself or got yourself locked in so that you could play some multiplayer games in college. So, right, Commander Stitch says, hey, Mr. Julius, and I say also, hello, Mr. Julius, and thanks for greeting the unicorns. And Commander Stitch said before, I think my brain just exploded seeing a plasma screen such as that. Yeah, this is the title of the book, that it comes, it appears quite often, the phrase, the Friendly Orange Glow, because, I mean, now that I know how this plasma thing looks like, whenever I see it, I will instantly recognize it and will say, this is that's a Plato. That's a Plato terminal. So again, if you're only interested in this sort of thing, just read part 2. And the third part is when, of course, they tried to go bigger and bigger, where Don Blitzer said, I always want to say Wolf Blitzer, where Don Blitzer said that he envisions millions of terminals all connected with each other, and of course they were having problems even coming through the thousands. Then of course there was a corporation made out of it, but they still did not grasp what they had in their palm. Because, again, this was just to further education, right? So they tried to sell their tutorials and their courseware and physics program and pretty much teaching on anything. But the people on the road were communicating via term talk. This, like I said, where you could talk to each other like an instant messenger. They were coordinating through forums on there and so on and so forth. So this entire corporate structure that now is called Microsoft Teams or Microsoft Corporate or whatever, they all already had it in the 80s, but the management, the higher up said, this is not our focus. Our focus is education. So they focused on the wrong things, because at a certain point then there was not much point in having everything centralized, because the terminals themselves could store more things and essentially run their own programs. And this is I think the point that led to Plato becoming obsolete. So again, recommendation from my side if you want something super nerdy, and then we can all nerd out about Plato. Mr. Julius says, no problem, Automated Unicorn. I hope I'm not feeding future Terminator. So no, you don't. The Automated Unicorn is very adamant. You should feed it. You should feed it daily, and you should feed it with bandwidth and your personal data, because for some reason it's the tastiest. Isn't this nice? The unicorns behind me probably agree. Right, so on to the next book, and that is Blood, Sweat and Pixels by Jason Schreier. And this is, there was recently a new book from him that's called Press Reset. And this was the follow-up to this book, but today I'm only talking about Blood, Sweat and Pixels, and the Unicornator will rise, says Cursey Boo. We can't feed the Unicorn daily because you don't stream daily. This is absolutely correct, Lady Misleaf. So I have to stock up on digital cookies and then just feed it every day, just one. Otherwise, it will try to take over the world. Anyway, Blood, Sweat and Pixels. So some of you may already have heard the name Jason Schreier. Most of the time when there is some industry misconduct brought up, because he's I think he's with Polygon, or was with Polygon for a while. So it's investigative games journalism. And you probably heard about the insane crunch that was happening at Naughty Dog, for example, which is also in this book, or why Anthem, that's the stinker. Why Anthem turned out as lackluster as it was, and everyone was hoping for that BioWare magic to happen, where things just magically come into place despite nothing working until everything is too late, and they were just hoping for anything to come together. But anyway, this is not the focus of this book. This book is a bit more uplifting, I think, and also a super interesting read if you're into making games yourself. So let me bring up my notes, because I had a super good quote for this. And in the foreword, Jason says that he talked with a developer, and the developer relates to Jason how their big game was made, where to which Jason replied, "My God, this sounds incredible! It's a miracle that this game was made." The developer looks at him and says, "It's a miracle that any game is made," and this really got him thinking, and because we all know, probably from our own from our own experiences, how hard it is to make a game, even a small one. And of course, the bigger you go, the more and more complex and gruesome it tends to get, because sometimes most of the times it's not just yourself, but this entire group of people who are trying to do something that was never there before, because every game is something completely new that you have to figure out. So Jason looks at a number of games and chronicles how these games came to be, and also has a focus, or different focuses or lenses on different circumstances of different developers. For example, he looks at the problems and struggles of Pillars of Eternity, for example, where this was where Obsidian was trying to recover from a very bad place they were before, and suddenly the only option for them was to use Kickstarter, and suddenly they were beholden to a number of people and not just one big publisher, and how this changed things for Obsidian. We all know that Pillars of Eternity was quite a success, but of course, in hindsight, it's easy, because you already know what not to do. So this was about Obsidian trying to reinvent itself. The next was Uncharted 4, and we all know Naughty Dog games because they are just incredibly polished. But if something is super polished, of course, it has to pay a price, or a price has to be paid somewhere. And with Naughty Dog, this is crunch. So Naughty Dog is, I think, known for two things: super polished games and crunch, relentless crunch. And this is also something that I feel is as a person that's just one dude making games, I really don't want to crunch. I think I'm past the age where I think, it's super fun to just crunch, because, I mean, there is one thing, there is this game jam crunch where after 2 or 3 days, or how long the game jam takes, it's over. But with games crunch, you never know when it's over. It says, we all have to have all hands on deck, and then crunch for 4 weeks, and then it's done. So 4 weeks go by, and the deadline has been extended. But we need to crunch for that. It's just a little bit more, but then new features creep in or drop out, and there's the E3, and we need a demo. So it's just 4 more weeks of crunch, but then the game just doesn't come along, and it needs to be pushed further down half a year to be really good. And oh my God, it's half a year, we can really polish this thing, and you crunch for another half a year, and then there is something, a deal goes bad with the publisher or anything, and then the game doesn't get made, and you need to struggle as a studio to make something else, and then you crunch again. You can see where I'm going with this. So this relentless and endless crunch is just killing people, and this is also something that gets addressed in Blood, Sweat and Pixels. The other thing is, I think this is probably of the most interest for indie solo devs as us, is Stardew Valley. How what was his name? Eric Barone, or as we know him, Concerned Ape, not Monkey. Concerned Ape made Stardew Valley in 5 years. And as we all know, if you're a solo dev, it's you that has to work on something, and if you don't do anything because you just feel are paralyzed by fear and crushing self-doubt, then nothing gets done. And he tells this really in a very relatable way, where he says, there were just days where, if you work on the music, then nothing else gets done on the gameplay. So, everything you need to do yourself. And of course, there are days when you think, is it really worth it? And the other thing is, this was more or less his full-time job, but he didn't get paid for it. So his girlfriend was working and also bringing in the money for the two of them to somehow keep going, which is a huge burden on her, because we all know now that Stardew Valley worked out spectacularly, but we don't know about the probably thousands, if not tens of thousands of projects where people really pour in everything they got, and for some reason it doesn't work out and they end up in a worse place than before. So it's super interesting to read this, but of course you can always feel in the back of your head this thought is, my God, what if this didn't work out? Where would he be now? So again, this is also a tale that you can read. Is it a success story, or is it just horrible when you think, my God, nobody's going to play a pixel farming game? The good thing is that people did. Lady Mistleaf says, someone on Reddit downvoted me when I said I was wary of working for game companies for that reason. I got downvoted. People on Reddit. This is... I feel too old to be on Reddit because I don't get it. And sometimes I feel that people who are vocal on Reddit, of course, I'm trying not to generalize, but many people don't know what they talk about, at least on some of the topics that I've tried to follow. And this is when I realized, screw this. I don't want to pollute my easygoing mind on a certain day. Just my mood with just getting angry over some people who don't know what they're talking about. But with personally, I also thought, my God, wouldn't it be great to be working for, I don't know, BioWare or something? And then you read all those stories, and even if it's not just the big companies like Ubisoft or Activision Blizzard, it's even the small ones. I don't know if you've heard of what was the game company with Steve Gaynor. They made Gone Home and Tacoma, and they're working on another game now. And I always assumed, the bigger you go in a corporation, the worse it gets. So just stay small, stay indie. But this made me really realize that bad apples can be at any size of a company, and it's really, I think the most important thing is when you do something creatively, not just games, is to get rid of all the assholes. Some people are predatory assholes and take pretty much any advantage they can take of other people. Mostly, now I'm getting kind of carried away from the book review, but anyway, my thoughts on this with Blizzard is, they're just a couple of guys who have been doing games and being frat boy assholes their entire life, and nobody has told them that their conduct is not okay. Worse still, they just get praised, and all the others around them share this same culture, and they really don't know what kind of people they are. And I always thought it, especially when you work in teams or groups, is that there's always this one aggrandizing asshole in there, and you have to, when you come new to a group, you really have to figure out who it is. And if no one is, the chances are it might be you. But my point is, no matter, I mean, in these big corporations, I mean, there is this culture where something like this can go undetected for way too long. But even in smaller ones, this is, I mean, the red flag is if you get hired, look at job ads and they say, yeah, they're looking for rockstar developers, and not just rockstar games, which is another bag of problems in itself. But people who consider themselves rock stars or geniuses. And from working with teams, what I've learned is it's never worth it. If you have one person that might be a genius, but no one else in the team gets along with them and they just poison everything, get rid of this person, because in the end you want to have a space where a multitude of different people can come together and work on something that is not just this one person's vision or a mission even. So and this is what personally got me turned off of working in the games industry as a professional. For one thing is probably no one would hire me because I don't have a track record because I never studied this. And the other thing is, from what I've heard, it's just, to me, it just wouldn't be worth anything like this. So again, this brings me finally back to the book. Is you can read this from, like I said, from two sides. From one side is the super enthusiastic reading of it and think it might be hard, but in the end they made great games. And the other side is, my God, was this hard? Thank God it worked out for them. And let me catch up with the chat. Blizzard was one I dreamed of. Happy nothing ever happened. Yeah, exactly. I've heard of people who got who invited to a talk for a position at Valve, which is something, I mean, you get invited to Valve, right? And again, also Valve is known, I mean, at a certain size, pretty much every place is known, or there are some rumors behind doors about some aspects that aren't as welcoming or as good as you would assume them. And again, the problem is there is this huge power imbalance there. I mean, let's say you really want to go to Blizzard, and once you land your job there, you're just ecstatic that you can finally work for Blizzard and pour your heart and soul in there. There is this one asshole that makes your life hell there, and you think, but I can't quit. I mean, for one thing, this is my dream, and maybe it's me. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. And the other thing is, I've moved probably just my entire life to a different city for this job, and if I need to quit now because I just can't take it, I'm not even back to square one, but back to -1 or -2, because you made so many sacrifices just to work at one company. So again, this the older I get, the more these kind of things really turn me off of this entire thing. And this is why, for myself, I think I found this relatively perfect balance of just not being dependent on this dream of making games of mine. Because one thing is, as soon as it starts to become work for money, and that you have to do it even if it's of no fun to you, that you still have to do it. And when you still have to do something, then this entire fun part wears off. I mean, of course, even in your pet projects, there are some certain aspects where you think, I'm not too fun working on that aspect, but once I'm over the bump, I will have fun again. But this gets me into a completely different topic in terms of self-motivation and so on. But again, the more you know about how the big gaming industry works, the more you become disillusioned by it. And so, but then of course there are the more low, I'm not low budget games, but the more indie you go, maybe things are better there. For example, I only know of this one game studio, Mimimi Games in Germany, in Munich. They're not that far away from here, actually. You might have know them from Shadow Tactics and Desperados 3. So those stealth tactical games. And they have this policy that there is no crunch. The CEO goes just walks through the entire office in the evening and says, "It's 5. Come on, go home. But I want to work with it. Want to work? Yeah, tomorrow. Come back tomorrow. You need some time down." And I think this is the silver lining of all these crap that comes out of big corporations, is that if you're not too big, if you're not beholden to some stakeholders that are just interested in you making profit and not making great games. And I think there is this small window of opportunity where you can work on great games, have the time of your life, but you don't have to have this fun sucked out of everything. My God, this was quite the rant. Just in case, says Lady Miss Leaf, you do know the original founders and staff walked away in the last few years, right? Exactly. This is also something that I think that the entire game industry has also been hyped up, also by media and pretty much anything. I mean, probably even myself, that it's brands. It's not people, it's brands, it's developers. When they say it's the new game from BioWare, and people think, my God, BioWare, Jedi games, and Baldur's Gate, my God, BioWare, those people working on a new game, and it's shit. But yeah, those people are long gone. There are new people doing completely different stuff there, and now, of course, they have grown too big to make a product that's not profitable. So there's a completely different dynamic there. But again, doing marketing and public relations and pretty much everything to leverage the name of a certain brand, everything that's connected with the brand, as consumers, of course, you get the entirely wrong picture. And yeah, I think this happens everywhere, right? Where, I mean, if you hear Apple, many people still think, Steve Jobs, right? And this super innovative company. But yeah, I mean, things change with time. But with the game industry, it's something that has been actively pushed. Not so much. I mean, it's like saying, my God, I like this new game from Paramount Pictures because I've always enjoyed Paramount Pictures' films. So yeah, this is probably not the best metric to go on, because different directors work for Paramount Pictures and they make a wide variety of different things. So I think, with the movies, it's more like, the certain star names and director names, and if you're into it, even from other departments, names and so on. But with gaming, it's very rare that for example, the visual designer for, maybe I think I know him, for Dishonored, for example. So this is a game by Arcane Studios, which again, until it starts to change, it means something, but as soon as it started to change, it doesn't mean anything anymore that a game was made by Ensemble Studios, because it's not the same Ensemble Studios that made Age of Empires ages ago. My God, I'm so strong on the rant today, but rant, not rent. Right, so back to the book. So Blood, Sweat and Pixels charts the making of Pillars of Eternity, Uncharted 4, Stardew Valley, but here we go, Blizzard of Diablo 3, of how to make a follow-up to a game that was highly successful and how they took their time. And of course, I think some of us still remember the very infamous auction house with Diablo and what their learnings were from that. Then there is a chapter on Halo Wars. Here we are at the Ensemble Studios. They were known for RTS, real-time strategy games. But behind closed doors, while cranking out Age of Empires games, they tried a lot of different genres or different games, but it never progressed beyond the prototyping stage, because they realized, it's not working, or this is not great, but no one's really interested in that game, but so on and so forth. And with Halo Wars, they put all the knowledge that they amassed from those prototypes into making an RTS game, which they knew how to make, on a console. And this, again, it worked out great, but you never know if something works out. Next up, we have Dragon Age Inquisition, a chapter on Dragon Age Inquisition, which is about how to make a game possible when the technology is not there and you have to meet a certain window and pretty much everything is stacked against you. You have to work with, like I said, new technology or something that's clearly not tested, and you're caught between a rock and a hard place, and you really have to deliver something. And this is probably also why Dragon Age Inquisition is not remembered very fondly. But once you read through how it got made, you gain an appreciation for what is actually there. Then, of course, a super interesting chapter on Shovel Knight, which is also something that was the people who made Shovel Knight were, my god, I should really be better with names. They were at a gaming company. You might know them from their Shantae games for the Game Boy. So they made also the DuckTales remaster, I think 5 or 6 or even more years ago. Anyway, so they made a lot of mid-sized games, because they had a lot of people and just shuffled them around, and if their new projects get started, they just had already people for certain positions in place. So the team of Shovel Knight worked on a platformer there before, and they had a lot of fun, and just thought, my god, that was cool, what can we do next? And management said, yeah, either of you will get assigned to different teams who need your expertise. But they thought, we work strong as a team now. We've learned so much. We can be much faster and work better because we all know how we work together. And so they decided to walk away and do a Kickstarter for Shovel Knight. And for one thing, is they overpromised, and because Kickstarter for Shovel Knight was such a huge success, they were chained to what they had agreed to by pretty much anyone who backed their game on Kickstarter. So this is why still years after Shovel Knight was out and sold, they were still working on essentially free DLC, because they promised that they would work on free DLC. Good thing for them is that Shovel Knight sold very well, and they again, it was a success story. But again, you just start thinking, my god, what if it hadn't worked out for them? So yeah. Then of course there is Destiny. That's how a studio, we all know Bungie, right? And they were with Microsoft for the longest time. First they were with Apple, but soon with Halo, they were just Microsoft's number one studio. Whenever there was a new Xbox, they made the Halo for it to sell the new Xbox. And before Destiny, they finally had their independence from Microsoft and thought, yes, freedom! And then, oh my god, freedom. So there was no safety net anymore. And this is something that when you work in this bubble with another huge corporation that's essentially taking care of things, how you have to learn to stand on your own feet as a big as company as Bungie is, and also make a success game from what they already have learned. Then just 2 more chapters. The next one is on Witcher 3. And again, this is a story of how a small European developer can gradually make better and better games. You know, Witcher 1, Witcher 2, and then with Witcher 3, where they thought, finally, yes, we're ready. We want to make a big game that can compete with the big guys, with Skyrim, for example. So with all those AAA productions, but it was produced by Polish people in Poland, and again, it's not as easy as things go. And finally, probably more or less a bonus chapter on Star Wars 1313. So some of you probably have never heard of this, and this was because this game was never released, and I think this was one of the final games LucasArts was working on. Again, here we are, LucasArts. When I hear LucasArts, I think, oh my god, Monkey Island, Grim Fandango, all those great games, Day of the Tentacle. But then if you realize that LucasArts, as soon as they got their Star Wars license back, they made Star Wars game after Star Wars game, and the quality got worse and worse, right? So again, it's just the name LucasArts that alone that has this beautiful aura around it. Right, so Star Wars 1313, this is, again, it never came out. It had a lot of hype built around it, and it was very much anticipated. But again, this is a story of I'm not trying to spoil it, but I just want to say of how a project as big as this could collapse in upon itself. I think this is a good way to put it. So yeah, this is what you could read in Blood, Sweat and Pixels, and again, it's something that you can read in two different ways and hopefully be entertained or even terrified by it. The choice is yours. So I thought I'm not just only talking about books that are very factual, but there we got finally a novel, and I also got it behind myself here. Let me see if I can bring it on camera. Yes, you can read it. This is Neuromancer by William Gibson, and this is the proto-cyberpunk novel out there. When I first read the first time that I read it, I couldn't put it down. It was so well written. It really pulled you in, and I was just super curious about how these things go. And what I very much like about Neuromancer is this entire world building that's happening there. It's not like that the author just takes you one step back and really explains you how this world works. No, it's just you suss it out yourself when you just listen to two characters talk in a certain slang, and you don't understand all the weird words that they are using, but then they pop up later in the book, and at the end of the book you have a very clear understanding. And then it's one of those books where when you read it again a second time with all the knowledge that you have, it's much more interesting or much more engaging. So if you haven't read Neuromancer, it's something that pulled me in quite a lot. I mean, even the first few lines are something that they could be a bit dated, right? So the first sentence in the book is the sky above the port was the color of television, tuned to a dead channel. People don't know it nowadays how a dead channel looks like. So I think I found this funny. So people nowadays will think a television tuned to a dead channel is probably black, but us old timers know it's this static noise, right? And yeah, it just starts out from there. And what I like about this book, this very this certain thing here is, I bought this over the internet some years back, and it came with a clipping from The Guardian. And what is this clipping about? It's an interview, I think, with William Gibson. There he is, and it's pretty much the cyberpunk aesthetic and how everything came to be. But again, it's like I said, it's something that I read for the world building alone. But you probably wonder now, after me gushing about world building and cyberpunk, what this actually is about. And let me bring up my clever notes. Essentially, it's the story of a hacker. Case is his name, that gets hired by a mysterious person to pull off a heist with other people. So then they have to collect all those other people. At the same time, they question the motivations of the person doing the heist, also by getting sucked into some weird cyberspace shit going on. I'm trying not to spoil anything. And then, of course, they have to travel to this super snazzy place that they need to rob of something. And then, of course, the heist happens, or does it, or what is actually going on. And again, the world building is super tight and super interesting, and also the different motivations of the characters. What I find very funny, or from a writerly perspective, very funny, is that the protagonist is just the most boring person ever. I don't think he gets even explained. It's just you average white dude with not much of a personality, and pretty much everything happens around him. I think his only personality is that he's a super cool hacker, or he was super good at hacking, but then this gets established very early on, because he crossed the wrong people. They took out or fried his ability to hack, but he was addicted to hacking and is longing to hack again ever since, until he gets an opportunity, an offer that he can refuse. And this is where the story gets started. So, is Connie vacuuming, says Lady Miss Leaf? No, I think she's just doing her hair. But yeah, you can hear it. With Neuromancer, like I said, there are so many small details there that really flesh out the world. And once I was through with Neuromancer, it took me quite a while to realize that actually it's part one of a trilogy, and it's called in William Gibson fandom, it's called the Sprawl trilogy, because the sprawl is this essentially how the mega cities of the United States just melded together and what happens there. And so the next two books have different protagonists. The next books are called Count Zero from 1986. And by the way, Neuromancer is from 1984. So every 2 years there was a new book in the Sprawl trilogy. So there was Count Zero in 1986, which I found it's okay, not that good. And finally Mona Lisa Overdrive in 1988. And personally, I thought the books kinda tell more or less the same story. If you really look at it at the very big picture from the outside, but my God, it's done so very well in this landscape, and it just so many pictures of people and locations pop up in my mind. Recalling what I've read about these books and trying to communicate it to you. So again, Neuromancer, and if you like what you read, you can easily read the other two books in the Sprawl trilogy. Finally, with William Gibson, there's also the Bridge trilogy that was I think in the 90s. It's also 3 books, which is a lot less hacking, but a different story, and again, world building. My God, the world building. Again, so great. And finally, there is another trilogy, and I had to put it down because I couldn't stand even just one chapter. Even the very first sentence in the very first chapter of the book, it was just so super pretentious. I don't know what happened to William Gibson, but I realized then, yeah, probably it's not all his books are for me. I mean, sometimes you probably know this. You have a writer, you discover a new writer, and then you think, my God, this is great. I want to read everything from this person. Then you realize, nope. The one thing that I got introduced to this person was the best thing that they ever written, and pretty much anything is not that good. Yeah, again with William Gibson, it's so and so. You probably know that he also co-wrote for X-Files an episode, and again it was just of a person trapped in cyberspace or something. So he was delivering the goods he was hired to deliver for, I think. So, right, this was Neuromancer, and again, William Gibson, and I just realized that I've typed his name on the sidebar with just one L. So there is 2 L, it's William Gibson, as you can see in the cover. And finally, you probably want to have something that's a little bit less out there or academic, and this is 1 Week Dungeons by David L. Craddock. I think I've already subscribed to recommended a David L. Craddock book previously. I think this was The Making of Shovel Knight, or Stay a While and Listen, his story or chronicling how Diablo was made. So 1 Week Dungeons is pretty much the closest you can get to a book on Ludum Dare. So what is this about? The subtitle says Diaries of a 7-Day Roguelike Challenge. And it's exactly that. It's 11 game designers, says the blurb, 8 grand ideas, 7 days to will them into reality. So yeah, sounds like a week-long game jam. But this game jam is about roguelikes. And it's part of the 7DRL, that is the 7-Day Roguelike Challenge, which happens, I think, every March. Let me quickly find out. Ah, beautiful. I closed Firefox. There we go. But I still have the link. Make it big. There we go. The 7DLR Challenge. And yeah, March 6 to March 14, but 2021 has already happened. But again, it's how to participate. Just join the jam at itch.io, and there you go, and you got 168 hours to pull it off. So where does this come into the book? Like I said, it's 11 game designers, and they make 8 games. And the book is not structured that it's just one book after the other. That gets not one book. What am I saying? It's too hot in here. One game after the other. No, the book is structured in days. So you get for each a day a chapter, and the thing is that the author interviews all the teams how they are doing at a given day, right? And then you realize when you read through this, you see so many facets of game jamming, right? Where things get in the way, like the classic, you didn't get enough sleep. The other classic, well, you have a day job. Other people have so-called families, whatever this is, and other people overscope horribly, and we all know how this happens. So if you want to read something that is very close to home, but not right at home, but where you still can just be in the same emotional be on the same emotional journey as the people in the book. So for me, of course, it was a very entertaining read, and I thought, my God, this is almost too close to home. But we all know that things like this happen. So again, it was I found it a super weird way to structure a book by days, and then just do interviews and essentially like journal entries on a daily basis during a game jam. And of course, in the end, he looks at the games that resulted from this jam. So, and I also, of course, thought to not just pick anything or the book or books that are super hard to get. If I piqued your interest, and with 1 Week Dungeons, I found out that it is super hard to get at the moment. There is one link on Amazon that sells the Kindle version. The Kindle version, I think for $89. I think I got the Kindle version for like $12 back then. And the good thing is, with the internet and everything, I just asked David on Twitter 2 hours before the stream. And here we are, and he replied. And the reason was that this book is under a new publisher and will be re-released under a new publisher soon. So this is why the existing links have been taken down. So if you're interested in this book, and like I said, I can very much recommend it. Oh, Henry993 is here. Hello! Welcome for dropping by to the very last book that I can recommend. So yeah, 1 Week Dungeons, if you want to get it right now, I think it's super hard to come by because, like I said, it's between publishers, so it's blacklisted or getting unlisted on one, but the new listing for the other is not finished. So if you give it a couple of weeks or so, if you're still interested, like I said, I can recommend it. And the cool thing about building roguelikes is it's something where you don't have to occupy yourself too much with graphics. If it's an ASCII character, it's good enough, right? So you don't have to polish something. And yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Oh, holy moly, says Lady Mistleaf. And I don't know in what context, but probably because you've seen how much they charge for the hardcover of this book. Because I did. Yeah, it's $40. Yeah, again, wait for it. Give it a couple of more weeks. Like I said, I didn't pay a lot for it. I think it was like €12 or something in this, or even like 7 or so. It was not something where I thought twice for buying it. But if a Kindle version of a book costs over €20, I take one good look at it and then wonder if I really want it, and if it's better to wait for the paperback or even the hardcover of something. Yeah, and that's the Kindle price. Exactly. I don't know what is happening there. My assumption is this maybe either is from the old publisher and they just spiked up the prices for the very last weeks. They still could carry this item and they didn't care if they just sold one of it or none because it didn't matter. Or Other theory, this is already the new publisher, and they at this point haven't worked out a price for it or anything. So this is just why there might be a temporary stand-in price. That's just too high for it. I don't think also there is no cover image on the Amazon page, or at least on the one that I've seen. It's super weird. But the good thing is, yeah, 112 for the hardcover. I think we've looked now at the same page. And the good thing is that I bought it on Amazon a year back or so, and I can still download it on my Kindle without any problems. Cool. Right, so this was my series of 4 book recommendations. Let's go over them just very quickly again. So The Friendly Orange Glow is if you're super nerdy about education, software and hardware, and how the Plato system came together, that had pretty much invented the web before there was a web and nobody noticed, essentially. Then Blood, Sweat and Pixels, if you want to read about how big games were made, the struggles that there were, and also with Stardew Valley and Hollow Knight, Shovel Knight, getting games messed up already, how those games were made, and what you can, as a single game dev, what you can learn from it, either way of how you look at it. Then, of course, Neuromancer, the prototypical cyberpunk novel that essentially, I think, even single-handedly started the whole cyberpunk craze of the 1980s, which has come back now. I mean, if we look at games like The Ascent and Cyberpunk and Lacuna, and those are just 3 off the top of my head that fall in this Red Strings Club, that fall into this cyberpunk aesthetic, and which I find kind of interesting because it's such a strong visual aesthetic, but on the other hand, it doesn't quite work anymore, I feel. But that's a quite different topic, why I don't think that cyberpunk is that current today. But I've been on tangents so many times, so I will just continue to the last book. That was this 1 Week Dungeons by David L. Craddock, about roguelike game jam, and just watch 8 people, or read about 8 people struggle to get their game finished in a game jam. And that's about all the book recommendations that I have for you this week. Will there be new book recommendations next week? Probably not. Will there be ever any kind of book recommendations? You can bet your cute tushy on it, because I got this entire bookshelf full of dust, but also books and some very, very old and weird games. And one is called My Pony Farm, which I haven't played, but I think for some reason I got. Maybe I should clean out this bookshelf sooner or later. Right, so today is going to be a relatively short stream because I'm in the process right now of wrapping things up. I hope, despite me going on a tangent, well, just one, right? And many tangents, that it wasn't too short for you, but I had a stressful week, and I'm about to have a stressful week tomorrow, or at least tomorrow is going to start off quite intense. So I thought I try to get a bit more sleep in as usual. But if there's anything that we want to chat about, just put it in the chat, because I think I can afford 15 minutes, 30 minutes or so. I mean, if there is any demand on your part. Again, it's a very ranty, very random ranty show today. I'm sorry for that. Lady Miscliff says there, need to scroll up. The automated unicorn just made everything scroll. I'm guessing it's other sellers at the moment for the physical books, and they're taking advantage of the scarcity. Yeah, as always, scalpers gonna scalp. There is a word in Japanese for buying books faster than you can read them. I'll have to look it up. I'm guilty of this. I have this huge pile of shame that's on my nightstand, and which is really a shame, because I put there the books that I saved, right? Some books like that have been there for years now. I think one is almost a decade on this shelf now, because I never read them. When I go to bed, I turn out the lights, because of course I can't wake up my poor wife when she wants to sleep. So all I see is the friendly blue glow of my cell phone, and what I read there is mostly Kindle, blogs, and play the other odd text game, which is right now I'm playing Sorcery, Steve Jackson's Sorcery ! It was written by John Ingold, and my god, if you're into fantasy text games that are something different, if you, for example, if you've played 80 Days by Inkle, this is like 80 Days, just a different setting, but with a bit more gameplay to it. And my god, this game remembers over so many sessions your decisions that you made and references something that you did earlier, which I always love. So this is another recommendation for Sorcery. It's like, I think I paid like €5 for each part. Sorcery 1, where you think, that was over relatively quickly. Why did I pay €5 for it? But please stay with it. With Sorcery 2, it really pulls you in. And I'm playing right now Sorcery 3. And like I said, it's like €5.50 for each installment. So it's €16.50 that I paid for it. And so far, I can say I've been entertained very well. And yeah, this is why I can recommend buying it. And why is my mouse pointer not moving? Now it's moving again. Good. Okay, so probably we had some dropouts. If you can see this, you don't need glasses, depending on, well, which size you're viewing this. Lady Miss Cliff says, it's not a pile of shame, it's stocking up in the event of a massive power outage. You won't be bored. Let's hope that the power outage happens when I get still natural light to read it. But yeah, then I can read on high frequency trading on the stock market around 2005 or so. This is the book Flash Boys that I always wanted to read because it sounded interesting, but not that interesting that I really want to pull it out of the pile. But yeah, now that I think of my pile of shame, there are so many books that I want to read there. But yeah, maybe I mean, I bought them all in physical form, right? This is why they are stacked on my nightstand. But again, I read like 90% of everything on my phone before sleeping. So, and with some books you think, should I really buy them again just so that I have them digitally? Yeah, I mean, even the best books I don't buy twice. Maybe some of them, but not all of them, especially not if it's just some relatively mediocre written thriller where you just think, yeah, I got the book right there, but probably not going to buy twice. I prefer physical books. It's a personal choice. And Kersipu also says, how's Bioshock going? Okay, so one question after the other. Personal books. I love the smell of books. I love to look at different font types and letters, and I love the yellowing of the pages. You can see it here a bit. It just oozes charisma and just sheer happiness. Whenever I get into a bookstore or even stationery store, I just take in the scent and the atmosphere, and I'm just gone there for hours. Good thing is my wife is the same. But again, if I want just to read before bed, it's I can't turn on the lights, and this is why I have to set aside time where I'm in the cafe, where I have lights, where I have a book, and I have the time to read more than like 3 pages. And right now I'm reading a lot of magazines, first and foremost Retro Gamer, because I had saved my Retro Gamers that I got during the lockdowns, because I couldn't go to the cafe and read my Retro Gamer as I always did. And right now I still got one and a half Retro Gamers to finish before looking at books again. But my god, first world problems. And Kersipu says, how's Bioshock going? And I can say the first Bioshock, some of you probably know this, that I thought, I haven't played Bioshock. I bought Bioshock, even the special edition with the Big Daddy figurine, but the drill got a piece that's missing. Anyway, I bought this game and played it when it came out in 2007. It got not very far with it and thought, yeah, screw this game sucks. So now I thought maybe I should catch up with it, because I've heard only good things. So I finished Bioshock 1 and I thought, well, the final boss was a bit meh. but it was, especially for the time back then, wow, quite the mind-blowing game. I mean, nowadays many games try to tell an intricate story or have a super nice world building and so on. Again, Arkane's Prey from 2019 comes to mind, which I adored. But yeah, I very much enjoyed it. Right now I'm playing BioShock 2, and I think I'm at the very last chapter right now. And I think it got quite overlooked back then because everyone was waiting for the Ken Levine game that was BioShock Infinite. So BioShock 2 was not, I think, a Ken Levine game because a different team worked on BioShock 2. But it's kind of more of the same, but in BioShock 2 you play as a big daddy, and there are certain things where they tried to mix up the mechanics of the first game. For example, in the first game you had this hacking mini game that was essentially just pipe dream. So pretty much if you hacked anything, if you jumped on a turret and hit E or F to hack, you were in this separate screen where you just had to play pipe dream. Some with a very intense timer, but after all, pretty much the entire game stopped, so you could connect your little pipes. The second game, BioShock 2, has now that there is like in a golf game where you have this bar, and there is this needle going back and forth, and you have to hit certain spots on this bar to have a successful hack, which is a bit better, but it's still annoying. And what's annoying to me the most is, do you know this in shooter games, when suddenly you can't advance and it says, yeah, you need to call the elevator, but it will make a lot of noise and it will take like 3 minutes. Just hold the position and fend off the enemies. So you know this onslaught missions, this hold this point, where just jump around. My god, I hated this in Half-Life 2, really hated it. You know where this is going, right? With BioShock 2, there is a lot of those things. I mean, you can choose not to do them, but probably not a spoiler. I mean, when you're playing as a big daddy, you got those little sisters, which are just weird brainwashed girls that just suck out with those little weird syringes of corpses, their genetic structural Adam, as it's called in the game. So you have our little sister and you can have her extract Adam. So as soon as she does this, massive amount of enemies targets you and the little sister, so you have to defend her while she's doing this, and the timer is just running or a bar is filling up, and of course you have to just run around and put out fires where they are coming. And oh my god, I really don't like this. And it's like one little sister can do 2 harvests, as they are called. So it's like 10 or more, 15, 16 or so of these kinds of hold the point and defend it. And my god, I really didn't like it. And I was so relieved when I got the very final achievement that said dealt with every little sister, and I thought, oh my god, I don't have to do this anymore. Probably the game is about to be finished, and this is where I'm at right now. And Lady Miss Cliff says, may I ask you for your thoughts on a site which generates music if you have the time? I do have the time, but I don't have my mouse pointer because for some reason my mouse doesn't work. Now it works again. Beautiful. Sure. Shoot me the site, and I hope I can give some sort of feedback. Okay, Ecrit Music. Is this correct, or is there some weird pronunciation I have no idea of it? Royalty-free music for creators. Okay. 54 million combinations of music created by L. Let me switch over that you can read along with me. So this is L, apparently. Yeah, I'm aware this is AI. So Ecrit. So simple UI, license for all, royalty free. So let's just hit generate music and see what's going on there. Okay, so let's go with puzzle. A puzzle scene. It's an uplifting mood, and we want tropical house. What's EDM? Electronic dance music or electronic data memory? or erasable data memory. Let's go with acoustic. So puzzle uplifting acoustic. And let's have the AI do its deed. I don't know what to expect, but yeah, let's find out. You know how this sounds like? Sorry. There is. With Grammarly, also you can make your text not like shit. Do you struggle with coming up with good phrases? You don't. Now with Grammarly and also stamps.com. You know, this kind of music. So to me, I mean, you can see here that it's just bars. So yeah, I don't know what my opinion is. My opinion is it might probably sound a bit bland or samey. Let's try lifestyle, serious hip hop. Okay, so there is not that much going. In the meantime, let's look at the chat. Lady Misliv said, I toyed with it and it looks nifty, but I'm not that good with music, so I don't know if it would make music worth it for my video games. You know what? To me, it sounds like the YouTube library, right? So it's like if you need some sort of music to put underneath a video, where it's not that much made for close listening. Is it too loud, by the way? Where it's not that much made for close listening, but at least that it's not offendingly bad. So for games, maybe a hunch that I have is maybe it's not versatile enough. So for example, if you like one that it does one motif and you think, yeah, I like it, but now I need it a bit faster but going more in towards the dark side, or a bit more uplifting or something. So I don't think it's possible to do this, because from what I can see, there are certain combinations, slow motion, and you can't have uplifting slow motion apparently. Or let's go with food, sad food, but it's lo-fi hip hop. So I have a feeling that there are just a certain number of building blocks, and that the AI is, I mean, oh my god, I really don't want to shit talk anything that clearly I have no knowledge about. But you don't need an AI to do this. You need essentially a procedural level generator to do this. And also, I mean, I can just click on different tracks. I mean, if you need some quick and dirty filler music, like I said, for videos in the background or something, or tutorial videos, or even for just streams that it plops along in the background, I think this can be something that's super helpful. But again, yeah, I'm just worried about that you don't get really, when you need to solve certain problems with music, that you really can't get into this black box and just tweak it for what you want. But again, it's better to have something like this that's, like I said, at least not offendingly bad, because sometimes there was also this procedural music generator for bit music, and I've heard it in some Ludum Dare games, and my god, this was not good, where it just sounded very random, where you could divine out, okay, there might be a melody in there, but it's just buried underneath there. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I hope this doesn't come off as too as too patronizing. That's a demo too. I've seen screenshots of the whole thing, and it's much longer, but how the customization is at that point is unknown. Yeah. Either pay to have music made, or I use this of free music if I can find, or free music if I can find some. Yeah, I think you probably have a good chance at searching for Creative Commons music, because maybe even on freesound.org or Open Game Art, I think there is also music there. And the cool thing about this is that you might, especially with Open Game Art, you it's probably very easy to get in contact with the composer if you need something a little bit different, and maybe it should be affordable if it's just certain things that you need to make differently. But again, if you need a lot of different music for different circumstances, I think this is helpful. But again, I don't think it's for game making unless you make a number of very different mini games. Then again, as stand-in music, of course, if you just need something, okay, I need something soothing here in this part and something energetic for that part, as temp music, I think this could go quite a long way. Because the other thing, this is the inside talk on temp music. As I know it from the video and movie world, is that when directors or in the edit you use temp music for something, and you make life so much harder for the composer, because you just pick from the best of over 40 years. There, the Star Wars theme sounds very good. There we pick the bonk from the Inception trailer, and yeah, here maybe the Jurassic Park theme works, and there we pick some Harry Potter music, and of course it sounds great. And then you start editing it and you show it around to people with this temp music in, and then you hire your composer, and they say, yeah, congratulations, you made my job super hard, because whatever I do, it probably won't match the Jurassic Park theme, because you're so used to this Jurassic Park theme. And my point is, with this music, nobody ever going to miss it, I would say. It's probably, maybe there are some melodies that are interesting there, but again, a composer can probably recreate them easily, and again, just model them exactly to how you would need it. This is my very shit talking way of at least of how I see it. But again, I might be overlooking certain things, and the developers of this thing watching me right now just sending me complaining pipe bombs or something. Fair enough. Thank you very much. Yeah, I hope. Thank you. You're welcome. I hope. Again, it's just. I mean, if people can get one thing from me for free, it's an opinion. Well, hopefully it's not that bad. But glad I could shed some light on things. But you know what? Let's try out a genre that we have 8-bit. And now I clicked on 8-bit, and is there anything that we can have with 8-bit? Let's just create music in 8-bit and see what it does. I wonder if it sounds like more like a Genesis. It sounds a bit like those chip music generators that I mentioned before, where yeah, it sounds a bit random, I have to say. There needs to come the hook. Yeah, it feels yeah. I mean, it's if it's just a computer, I say, well done, computer. Your music sounds almost better than the one from my printer. I'm so sorry, brother. But yeah, it's not. Again, it's something that's nobody's going to miss when it's gone, and for your composer, it's much easier to get what feel you want, but to just make it real. I hope I didn't make you uncomfortable asking, but I really know little about music. So do I. I've never learned anything. Everything is self-taught. So if people come to me and say, yeah, the chromaticity on those arpeggios doesn't work because it's not the second 7 sus major of the other chord, I have no idea what they're talking about, because yeah, I think it sounds a bit wonky, but I like if it sounds a bit wonky, and if I push those keys, it sounds a bit wonky. So this is my vocabulary when it comes to music. And here I'm listening to the Remy theme on repeat. Yeah, Remy. Thank you so much. This was just lucky. Like I said, as soon as I knew that I had this energetic beat going and went with the blues scale, I only know a few scales, and I just You probably have noticed that like the majority of my music, like 90% is in D minor, because this one I can play blind and it always sounds dark and foreboding. Darkness, all engulfing darkness. And with that, I think, by the way, you probably wonder why my background is green, which is usually it's gray. It's because of this blue light here, because it is so strong that it even changes the background color on my desktop. Who would have thought? So thank you so much for listening to me ramble and rant for way too long. And I'm aware that I probably have overstayed my welcome when some people just wanted to be here to talk about books. And then I went on a tangent and say, gaming industry is bad and don't do games. No, I'm not saying don't do games. I say wherever you come from, don't go to a place that doesn't respect you as not being one of the frat boys, because clearly fuck those people, and whatever you bring to the table from your personal background, from whichever it might be, it's probably something that's enriches the entire gaming industry or the gaming landscape. It's not the industry, it's the landscape of games that we have as a whole. Otherwise, we would always have Call of Duty after Call of Duty after the new football games. I mean, in the end, this is mainstream gaming right now, and this is why I'm not interested in mainstream gaming anymore too much. Okay, again, I'm trailing off into a rant, so let's finish this. Thank you everyone for watching. I said unicorn way too little, so this is why I still have so much water. Stay safe out there, everyone. Secure, contain, protect your friends, your loved ones, and also yourself. And I hope I see you next Sunday. I don't know what I will be streaming. Maybe some games, maybe some more work on the post-mortem. Oh yeah, of course, I've been very busy on the post-mortem, especially this week. I shot some new pickups that I need. I did some overly elaborate 3D stuff with Maya and rendering and camera matching and so on. I don't know why I'm doing this, but it's fun, and this is what I like. So again, yeah, thank you for sticking with me and not going off on another tangent, because the people who all go off on other tangents are I'm just kidding. All right, have a great week and see you next week. Bye.